I was like, how do we resolve this? And he's like, well, how we resolve this is we put a stamp in your passport. I was like, yeah, that sounds good.
Yes.
But he said, at a
Logical.
price. I was like, and he said, for $70 I can put this stamp in your passport and you can go. I was like, this is not good. So I said, no. I said, no, I'm not paying $70. And he said, that's fine. We can just, we can negotiate. And we sat there for half an hour, back and forth, trying to negotiate $70 down to something, and they would not move. They would not budge. And I think
they said we can negotiate, and so you tried to negotiate,
Yeah.
and they said, yeah, 50? No, 70.
yeah, 65, nope, 70. I was like, oh my God. For half an hour, I tried all the techniques. I tried to sweet talk them. I tried to go angry. I tried to silent treatment. I tried to talk about snooker on a TV. Just nothing was working, right? And I was like completely thrown into the situation I've never been in before. So I was trying to keep calm. I was cognizant of the time because I don't want to miss my bus to Chiang Mai. I was like, my friends are going to go without me. I'm going to be on my own. That's fine. I can deal with that. But I just need to get out of this country, really. I was like, what do I do?
Welcome to the Where Have You Been podcast. I'm your host, Bill Ream, and each week on the pod, I have conversations with incredible guests from all walks of life. Expect to hear funny, crazy, emotional, life-changing, and even sometimes life-threatening stories and experiences that will entertain and inspire you. As always, I appreciate your likes, subscriptions, ratings, and reviews wherever you are listening. It doesn't sound like much, but it truly helps the pod get to the ears of more people who may enjoy it. And check out the website, whybpodcast.com, for links to the socials where you can find pictures from the guests and their stories, and also buy merch if you're so inclined. Now let's get to this week's episode. Thank you for being here.
Welcome into another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast. And I will say that today I have someone who I think it's an understatement to say is well-traveled and who has plenty of experience on, I think, both ends of a podcast. I have James with me today, a very special guest that I'm really excited for you guys to hear all about his travels. James, if you don't mind, if you would tell our listeners, who are you?
Hello. Yeah, it's a great question. Who am I? I'm James Hammond. I host the Winging It Travel podcast, and I also have the vlogging channel Roaming with Hamo. Who am I? I'm a failed musician. I am an addicted traveler. I love people and I'm quite positive. But on the flip side, a little bit anxious about the world and keen to thrash it out with some like-minded people. So yeah, good and bad parts, I think, in my mind every day. But I think that's most people.
Well, I'm just curious because I didn't realize the musician part. What was your tool of the trade?
Okay, so I got into what is called in London called BIM, BIMM. It's the equivalent of in USA like Berkeley or MIT for musicians. So quite prestigious. And I played the guitar and I passed an audition and I got onto the contemporary, I guess, music degree there is what officially it's called. And yeah, I did that for 4 years, but failed being the reason is that I didn't really have the energy for it midway through. And that's to do with travel, actually. I'm sure we'll come on to that. But I think I quickly realized I wasn't cut out to go into the music industry. I don't think it's my type of people or industry, right? So I think I didn't feel that comfortable in it. I think talent-wise, I was okay on the guitar. I was yeah. I think in my year group, there's 30 of us on the guitar, right? Some people drop out. It's quite hardcore. I'd say I'm in the top middle, so very competent, not a virtuoso, but can play a chord. So yeah, that's kind of where that comes from.
Do you still play just recreationally, just once in a while for fun?
No, I haven't played for, I would say, a decade.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So you just kind of lost the passion for it, I guess.
Yep.
Yep.
I sort of explain to people it takes like years and years of constant practice, which I did to get to that point. So I'd already played a lot in that 10 years before that, right? Like a heck of a lot. So to go again and get to the next level, I don't think I was cut out for it. I think it's too much.
And so here we are. Yeah. So, and let's tell the listeners, if you don't mind, you are not overseas, but you are north of the border, at least to where I am, and very far west. Where are you located?
I'm in Vancouver, in Canada,
Excellent. How long have you been there?
since 2019, January.
Happy?
Yeah, got the Canadian citizenship officially about a month ago now. Got the passport, so I'm now a dual nationality, dual passport holder, which is a life goal, which I've ticked off. So I'm happy with that. And
Excellent.
yeah, I think
Congratulations.
yeah, cheers, dude. I think it's going good. Yeah, it's going okay.
Do you still go back? You have family back home?
Yeah, I'm actually off back home in 3 weeks, just to dip back
Excellent.
to UK. So not all the time, but at least once a year.
Getting off track, but where are the food?
UK,
Yeah.
UK has best food in the world. I'm not going to hear anything else.
Okay. Very good. I'll take your word for it. I've heard differing opinions, but you know what? When it's what you grew up on, I'm sure there's comfort in having your home, home style meals and stuff also. And I'm sure that the food is fantastic.
Yeah,
I
it's
haven't
biased,
been,
right? It's
so I don't have a
biased.
comparison.
Yeah, it's biased. If I was to take the home food out of it, obviously I'll get some good answers for you. But yeah, I think overall I do miss it a little bit. And believe it or not, you still can't get the same stuff in UK as you can here, so it's a bit different.
Sure. So, and you mentioned you have a podcast of your own. You have the travel blog, and so would you mind telling the listeners again? It's the Winging It Travel Podcast. I'm sure they can find it everywhere, but tell them the website, which is very easy to figure out, and maybe both websites and any socials where they can find you.
Yeah, so the Winging It Travel Podcast, pop that in Google. I think you're going to find something there. But the website is wingingittravelpodcast.com. Instagram is Winging It Travel Podcast. YouTube is Winging It Travel Podcast. And on all the podcast apps as well. So pretty easy to find. The vlog is Roaming with Hamo on YouTube. I have a website. I don't really update it. So I'm not going to say have a look on there because there's not much going on. But if you want some visuals of my travels, that's the place to go. So obviously Winging It has guests and the audio side, and then the YouTube has the visual side. And so I try to do both because they have different audiences, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with my travels and my content. I do produce a few other podcasts as well, but they're the main ones that I actually host.
So, if you don't mind, I've listened to a bit of some of your podcast episodes. There was a really fantastic one that I listened to recently. When I say recently, it was a couple of weeks ago, and I'm trying to remember. I feel like she was talking about Amsterdam and some other places.
Erin?
But
Yeah.
yes. And what I find with your podcast so interesting is it's almost like my podcast and what I'm doing is sort of like a short form version of what you're doing in hearing the stories, because you get those out of your guests as well. But there's so much more information, and you learn so much more about the individual, I think, which is very interesting to me. We just have two different styles. But kind of, could you tell me like where it came from? Why did you start the podcast? And then if you don't mind telling the listeners kind of where you're taking it, because I realize that you're doing a little bit more in-depth things with the podcast going forward, or maybe you have to some degree already.
Yeah, so I started the podcast in COVID because we all know we couldn't travel. And that's actually quite a big thing for me. Like my main hobby is travel. So I was kind of a bit stuck. So I started this podcast by inviting all my friends I've met traveling the last 10 years before that. And that was interesting to start with. So a lot of conversations, a lot of raw conversations, lots of stories. And I say early doors, not really getting to know the person, but more getting to know our travels and what we experienced together and where we met each other in the world, right? And then that kind of developed into people asking to come on. I was like, okay. So these were people who I didn't know, slightly different vibe. So had to change how I asked the questions, what the angle was, and actually learn it for the first time on the call. So that's quite interesting. And then as we progress to now, I think I actually prioritize people I now meet on the road or are in the same space. So Erin, you mentioned there, is a friend of mine in Toronto. She's also a travel podcaster. She's a travel podcaster on the same network as me. And I've met her in person in Toronto and social media and stuff like that. Been knowing each other for a few years. So we have that relationship and that vibe to maybe have it a bit easy. It's an easy, have a laugh chat about the Netherlands where she traveled, and I've been there before as well, so we can kind of riff off some ideas. But I'm also keen to understand the traveller from a human point of view in terms of where they grew up, what brought them to travel, then the traveling aspect, but also want to make sure the listener actually learns about the place as well, not just stories. So I try to encompass all of those. And I've kind of leaned away from accepting pitches really going into next year, because I find a lot of the time some people can just pitch to you not because they love the podcast, but because they want to sell something. So I'm kind of leaning away from that a little bit. I'm actually taking it into an area which is going to cause a lot of stress because it takes so long to produce, but I'm going into the audio immersive cinematic experience. So going into next year, it's going to be one guest a month, maybe the odd two. And it's going to be these immersive episodes which take a heck of a long time to produce. And they're going to be collecting sounds from the places I'll travel, put them together, and try and bring you along with me in the travel as long for the ride for the 20 minutes or so that episode is for, and try and teach you a bit about the place as well. But also you can hear it and maybe imagine being there. So that's where it's going in the future.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And you and I talked when we first met about, I think, somebody who we know mutually in Scott Gurian, who's maybe
Yes.
one of the classics at doing that format. And it's just, if you haven't listened to something like that already, please find someone, whether it's Scott or keep an eye on James. And it's like if you're not driving and if you could just close your eyes, it's amazing to feel almost like you're there. So I love that you're doing that.
Oh, cheers, dude. Appreciate it. Yeah, I think if people want to get an example, I've got a few. I think I've released maybe 10. I've got a playlist on Spotify. If you go to Winging It Travel Podcast, immersive episodes, you'll see my full list there. But if you want a good one to start with, I really like the Acatenango volcano hike that I did in Guatemala last year, because I start with the rumble of the volcano. So it gets you straight into what I'm seeing, which is pretty incredible.
Awesome.
So that's a good one. Or an El Salvador one. El Salvador still got a bit of mystery to it. So I did I think 4 or 5 episodes for that, which is quite cool if you want to check that out as well.
I will link to at least the volcano episode in the show notes so that people can just go straight there if they'd like to, because I think that's awesome. So
Cheers,
I appreciate
that.
It. Yeah. So before we get to the bulk of the episode, and I ask you, where have you been? When did you said travel was a big part of your life, and especially even leading into 2020 when the world shut down. But when and why and how did that happen? Was it a family thing? Did you travel as a child, or how did that come along for you?
No, I didn't travel. I was in a very poor area when I was growing up, so no money. So no travel apart from the odd 1 week in the summer where we could go into like a caravan site, like an RV, and spend a week not that far away, really, like maybe an hour or two drive away on the coast. That was about as extensive as it went in terms of family. And then in high school, my mum managed to get me into a decent one. If I went to the local high school, it would have been a different game. But she got me into a good school, and suddenly I was surrounded by middle class kids who were going away on their holidays. I was like, oh wow, like they go to Spain. That's pretty incredible. Still wasn't on the cards, but at the school, they did do school trips to Germany, to France, to Italy, and I managed to get myself on them because the school would agree to pay for me because I come from a much like a low income family. So that got me my first taste into Europe. And then I went to Australia on a whim in 2010 to go and watch cricket with my friends. And when I landed in Australia, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I think that was the switch. So that was end of 2010, start of 2011, which was halfway through my course. And then I promised myself to book a trip to go away traveling for 2 years, 2 years later. And in the meantime, I'm going to finish the course, get a job, and save money. And that's where it all started, really.
And you made it happen. You did that.
Yeah. I mean, looking back, I don't know how I saved that much money. Maybe it was cheaper back then. I'm not sure, but yeah, made it happen. Had to basically practice, perform, work in my spare time. And in the meantime, I did go to Ukraine before I went traveling, 2012. Yeah, before all the troubles now. So that was quite an interesting trip. We drove across Europe from London to Donetsk. That took about a week. So that was like a little taster into what was to come. And then, yeah, well, January 2013 was the kickoff date for my travels. But yeah, made it happen.
So excellent. It's awesome when even at a younger age you realize that something is so important to you and you can actually put in the time and effort and be responsible enough at that age. Because at least with kids growing up in the United States, I think it's a very small portion that would be that dedicated and realize that it's something so important to them and do that. So I think that, kudos to you for being that passionate about it and making it happen. And it's only intensified from there, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I literally made Australia was the work visa. So I've got a work permit. So if you're under 35, it is now. It was 31 back in the day. And you've got like a UK passport or Canadian passport and even American passport, you can get an Australia working visa. So you can apply for that. As long as you haven't got a criminal record, you'll get in. And then that will enable you to work for a year in Australia to have no rules. You just got a year to get as much out of it as you can. So I had that in the middle. So before that was Southeast Asia because my friend who I went with wanted to travel there, and I sort of followed him, and it was an amazing trip. Couldn't believe it. 3 months. Then I went to Fiji. New Zealand was unbelievable, and I went back there in 2017 to work there for a year and do the work permit. That was a great trip. And then Australia for a year, and then I went across the water to go and do like the World Cup in Brazil and South America and a bit of Caribbean and New York, Iceland, and home. But that was about a 2-year trip. And actually, when I got back from the trip, I thought I was done. But after maybe a year, I was like, no, I'm not done. So off I go again.
Nice. Very nice. Well, you just mentioned a whole bunch of places, and
Yeah.
I know you've been a whole bunch more. Take this however you want to, but let's get into it. James Hammond, where have you been? Like I said, I know you've mentioned a lot of places already, but yeah, where have you been?
Do you want me to list them?
You do whatever you'd like. You can tell areas. You can list what you'd like,
Oh, wow.
or you can just
Okay.
jump in, somewhere and start telling stories or whatever you'd like to do. I'm pretty open.
Okay. I'm not going to list them because it will take a while.
Be
But
halfway done with the episode.
areas of the world. Let's do some specific areas, not like continents, but like areas. So Southeast Asia. So I've done that loop twice. That's like Bangkok around to Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, Malaysia, Singapore. A quite popular route on the backpacker trail, and Indonesia as well. So I've done that twice. 2 very different trips. One a bit young, hedonistic. The older trip, much more about sightseeing and culture. So that's a very popular area of mine. Nepal. I've been to Nepal twice to do some hiking in the Himalayas. I've been to India twice as well. 2 different trips. I backpacked there for 3 months. That was an eye-opening trip. We can come back to that one if you want. But that was in 2016, in between Australia and New Zealand. I've been to Japan. My partner here, we went for a year in 2023. So that was like Europe, Middle East, Nepal, Japan. We've been to also Taiwan, South Korea. So these sort of countries. And I mentioned South America. I've been there. Not for a long time though. That's the only time I've been, 2014. So I went for 3 months, dipped around to 5 countries on that continent. I'm itching to go back. And last year I kind of scratched the itch a little bit. I went to Central America, which is obviously not the same, but fairly similar. And I've mentioned work permits. So I've worked in New Zealand, Australia, Canada, where I am now, and obviously UK. Did a bit of volunteering in India. And I think on the whole, and Europe, obviously I mentioned Europe really, but obviously done quite a bit of Europe being from Europe. That's the rough areas I've been to. So that's an overriding thing if you want to see or imagine a map of what I've kind of achieved up till now, as I can appreciate a lot of countries in those. So that's the start.
Yeah. Here's a question for you. Do you
Yeah.
have any sort of like a goal in mind? Some people have like hey, I want to get to every continent, or is it more of just, I just want to see the world. Wherever it takes me, that's where I want to go.
Oh yeah, there's no number attached to it, but it's constantly seeing new places. I think is always the name of the game. I think I try to do 2 or 3 a year. Obviously, depends on the situation, work or not working, whatever it is. So my rule, I guess my loose rule is 2 countries per year of your age.
Ooh,
So I'm above
okay.
that. So that kind of gives you a rough idea where I'm at. So I think it's going to take 8 years to get anywhere near the the total list, right? 90 years probably. So achieving that is probably not going to be possible, but I'm much more, I guess I'm much more precise about where I go now. Maybe before it's like, nope, go and tick that off and this, but now I'm much more intentional about where I go. So if I really want to go somewhere like this year, I'm now almost booked my trip to Bhutan. That's been number one for 4 years. So I'm finally getting it done this year, right? So much more
Excellent.
intentional.
Excellent. And that's something I'm curious about with people, because sometimes guests have, found a favorite place or two, and they kind of keep going back, even though they may still explore more. Myself, I'm more of the chances of me going back somewhere that I have been, with very few exceptions, are slim to none, because
Okay.
there's so much of the world that I still want to see.
Yeah.
And my list is ever growing. This is probably one of the worst and best things I ever did, was starting this podcast, because there's so many places that I never even thought of that now I feel like are just like, I have to get to these places because I've just heard unbelievable things. And actually, great segue. I would love to start with India, if you don't mind, because
Sure.
it was never a thought for me. And I've never heard anyone say a bad thing. And on the contrary, I hear more and more of, if anything, it was life changing to be there. What were your experiences, or some experiences you had in India?
Yeah, because I went this year actually to India, but that's a different trip, and I'll come back to that. But the first trip in 2016 was, again, on the whim. I quit my job because I was fed up. Had really, looking back, no money. But India is quite cheap, so you can get away with going with a couple of $1,000, which I had. That's all I had. So I booked a flight, return flight, went and met two friends there. And bear in mind, I had been to Asia before, and I've probably had culture shock in Bangkok before, but this was completely different. This was another level. If you think about how many people India has got, is it over a billion, right? Is it 1.3 billion or something? It's crazy.
It's insane.
There's people everywhere, and it's dusty, and it's noisy, and it's quite smelly, and it's hot, sweaty. Like, it really is like an assault on the senses, really. And when you go into, presumably, probably Delhi, if you're going to fly in, maybe Mumbai, but I went into Delhi, and you see how big this place is, and you see how many people are on the trains, and you can't fit in, and I've got my backpack on me. It's just instant stress. It takes a while to acclimatize, really. It took me like 3 or 4 days in Delhi just to get my feet on the ground, really. But for me, as a whole trip, it was absolutely incredible, just seeing all these temples, all these amazing hostels, meeting all these amazing people, locals and travelers, and seeing different sides of India. Went to work for a camel safari camp in the west at the Thor Desert, borders Pakistan. That was an interesting experience. Like, the first 2 days we were there, they said, "Oh, you can do a camel safari experience, so you know what to expect and tell the customers." Like, fair enough. Jump on the jeep, and the guy who owns it has just got this massive batch of opium. I was like, "Oh, is that opium?" He goes, "Yeah, yeah." I said, "Oh, what are you doing with that?" He said, "Oh, we just share it out amongst the people, and I guess they might sell it or use it, whatever they do, right?" Okay. So that's my first introduction into this area,
Okay.
which was a shock because India, you don't really get involved in that. It's more like the hash and the marijuana, I'd say. Much more chill. But anyway, that was the first impression. And then working with the company, they're called Trotters Tours in Jaisalmer, you get to know the people beside you. So the local guy who sells flowers, the local guy who makes your chai, the local guy who does the lunch, like little lunch van across the road, the guy who sells bang lassis, marijuana shop next door, the guy who's a hairdresser. You get to know all these people because you're there for 2 weeks. And after a few days, once they start seeing you, they invite you around for tea. They invite you around for a haircut. They invite you around to chat. They can't speak English that well, but they invite you around. So suddenly we're immersed into this like new culture and this new community in Jaisalmer. That's a town. That's what it's called. And I was like, oh, wow, this is pretty incredible. So we had a great time for 2.5, 3 weeks, eating great food, learning about local people, and just having fun, really, like seeing these little characters day to day and see what they get up to, right? There's a guy who has all the money to exchange, right? All the dollars and all the Canadian dollars and the euros. He's got a big wad of cash in his pocket, and he comes by and says, "Oh, do you need any money?" It's just like all these characters. So it's really good fun. Yeah, I think overall India was shocking for poverty. It was shocking for the disparity between rich and poor. Also, the areas can be super wealthy and rich, and new buildings, and like the best thing you ever see, and the next door is the worst. So that was shocking, but great food, great vibes. And we went to the north, to the mountains, west to the desert, to the big cities. Went to Varanasi, where they burned the bodies in the river in the Ganges. So we saw everything really that we could see in 3 months. So overall, pretty incredible. Yeah.
That's really fantastic. I actually had someone on early on who spent a good amount of time in India and mentioned a couple of the places that you've been, and he was part of one of those ceremonies. The what do they call it exactly? I want to say there was like 12 bodies, and they brought him to the top of this mountain,
Oh wow.
and they actually had him like spinning the chain so that they would keep the crows or whatever they were, not crows, vultures away from the bodies. And I
Wow.
mean, just an amazing visual, I guess. You don't have to answer this question. Did you take part in the opium?
Oh no. But I did take part in the bang lassis. So a lassi
Mm-hmm.
obviously is a milk yogurty drink, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can easily get some marijuana in it. And I did have it's in Varanasi actually. I had a bit of a problem. I took too much, but I didn't think I was. I think I ordered a medium size. I should have ordered a small because I was completely out of it by 7 p.m. But all the classic phases of being paranoid, being sick, in
Oh
hysterics of
no.
laughter. It was really like a roller coaster. My friend somehow got me back to the hostel. But Varanasi, you mentioned that story there. I mean, it's really hard to describe, but if people can imagine these small, windy streets down to the river, and on the river banks, you've got big logs with like one or two bodies in them, and they've been burned in front of your eyes, and the ashes go into the Ganges because obviously quite sacred, right? But you smell the burning flesh, you see it. Like it was the most insane place I've ever seen and smelt and been a part of. So I think those 3 or 4 days was actually a bit too much for me. I think obviously I mentioned the Bang Lassie that knocked me out for one evening. The next morning I went out after that actually on a sunrise tour of the Ganges, and that was incredible. But as soon as sunrise is done, the whole process starts again all day, and it's quite intense. So great bit of culture, but it's going to be uh, yeah an impact on your senses, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. And isn't there part of the isn't it's a cultural, like religious, very like you said, sacred thing, but isn't there also something to it where they can't really bury the bodies like we would here?
Yeah, so they want to immerse I guess they're cremated essentially, right? They want to immerse the
Hmm.
ashes into the Ganges, and then what they do is they bathe in the Ganges. It's supposed to be good luck and good health, right? And they asked us if we want to bathe in the Ganges. Like, well, after yesterday, after seeing what I've seen, I think I'll give it a miss, but I'll have a watch.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
So yeah,
Uh,
it's worth it if you can get across
that's
there. I appreciate for your listeners if they're in US. That's like the other side of the world, right? So it's a long way to get there, but um, totally worth it. And then this year's trip was a media trip actually, which is the opposite, where you get to stay in luxury hotels and see the other side of it, which is really
mhm.
nice, but a completely different vibe.
Maybe not as impactful.
No, no, but it's
Yeah.
great to see maybe those like luxury villas in the hills of like near Bangalore. They've just got incredible views, great coffee up there, like not as warm, lovely people, right? It's just a different vibe. I went to an animal safari thing as well, and we saw some
Hmm.
wild elephants, which was incredible. So that's the thing ticked off the list. Yeah, just a different vibe. But I would depends what your comfort level is. If people are listening, I would give maybe having a week just doing it by yourself, just to see how it is to travel on the trains and go from place to place and work things out for yourself. And then if you struggle, you can always just book a quick tour and join someone, right? But it will test your ability to be calm, organized, and also keep track of what's going on because it can be pretty hardcore.
Yeah. So I think the one thing to keep in mind if you're going to go to India, and again, I haven't been, but you don't go for 4 or 5 days. It's a
Oh
long
no,
trip it's a long trip as it is, but you're going to want at least 2 to 3 weeks or more probably there, correct?
it's a subcontinent. It's huge.
Yeah.
You don't realize how huge it is until you get there, really. But I think if you're talking around the realms of PTO, if you can, yeah, I think 2 weeks is the minimum. And all that's going to be really, if you're honest, that's probably Rajasthan, the state. You're probably going to see Taj Mahal. You're probably going to see where I went to Jaisalmer. You're probably going to see Udaipur, where they filmed the James Bond movie and all this sort of stuff, and Jodhpur, the Blue City, and all the forts. Like that little triangle or state could be 2 weeks. But don't forget, there's like tens and tens of other states you've not even been to. So yeah, you have to pick wisely. But if you want somewhere to start, go to Rajasthan. The infrastructure is probably built for tourists more than anywhere else, and you're going to see a lot of cool things that you've probably seen in the pictures, like Taj Mahal, etc. So that's a cool place to start.
So I want to take this in a direction because I want to be selfish and take advantage of you because I have never, and I may never again, who knows, have someone who has been to Lebanon, and I understand from what you kind of told me in the form that I had you fill out. There's some intense stuff that was there. But if you don't mind sharing, just because, again, I just don't know anyone else who's been there, and I don't know that I ever will have the opportunity again. So I'd love to hear from you what your experiences were like there.
Yeah, okay. So for context, this is March 2023. We all know what's going on with Gaza and stuff like that. So it's before this stuff was kicking off, just to give a bit of context, because I think even now might even be a bit more hardcore. But when I went, this is actually one of the very few times I went with an organized tour because I wanted to go and I wasn't sure. So I had a friend who's a Portuguese tour guide in Beirut, and he tour guides with a company.
It's nice to know people, huh?
Yeah. He's he used to live in UK, right? He used to live there, so he speaks great English. So he runs a tour mainly for Portuguese people, actually, because it's a Portuguese tour group. But I said, "Oh, can I join?" And they're like, "Yeah, great." Like, and then Zhao, his name, said, "Look, I'm going to have to do Portuguese explanations and then bring them to the side for English explanations." Like, yeah, that's totally fine. But one thing about Lebanon is everyone speaks English, so you're in this weird spot where maybe you can't interact with your group that much because they don't speak much English because they're Portuguese. But actually, you can probably integrate and speak more to the population because they do speak English, right?
Yeah, you're getting some firsthand stuff that the other tour guests are not.
Yeah. So Zhao's wife is from Lebanon, from Beirut. She does not speak Portuguese, but she speaks obviously Arabic and English. So I was like kind of speaking to her a bit more than the group sometimes. And this was a 9-day intensive tour of the country, and we went to everywhere. We went from Beirut, we went south to the border, a place called Tyre. I don't think they recommend going there because it's kind of near Israel. So we went to the Hippodrome there. It's got an amazing Roman Hippodrome where you can go and walk around. It's basically a deserted place. There's no one there. It's like going back in time. Then we went east to near the Syria border to Baalbek. Again, some Roman ruins, but these are incredible. Imagine the Acropolis in Greece, in Athens, which you cannot go inside because it's like cordoned off. But this you can, and it's just as impressive in my eyes. You're literally walking in the Acropolis.
I've been to the Acropolis, and that would be amazing to go inside.
Yeah, imagine walking in that. You can do that in Baalbek. I'm not sure if it's been ruined by maybe some of the bombings, but I think it's mostly okay now. But back then, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like the height of those columns. I've got a picture. I'll make sure to share it with you if you want to put it on any of your social media from this chat. But I'm standing next to this column, and I've got Zhao, the tour guide, to take a picture, and I am so small. Like this thing is ridiculously big. So it's incredible to see this like site kind of been looked after. It costs $5 to go in. It's pretty insane.
And isn't it amazing? Like, and it's like so stereotypical to say this, and it's so obvious, right? But when you see pictures of these things and you go, how in the world did they build this 1,000 years ago or whatever it was? But then to actually stand there in front of these things like this, it's just like, it is mind blowing, and it's awe inspiring, truly awe inspiring to just be like, I just don't even understand. Don't even understand.
Just so well preserved. And I don't even think it's that well known. I mean, when you think of an Acropolis style building, you probably think of Greece, and rightly so, because they have loads. But I don't think they're ever really on the limits to actually go in. I think they're probably off limits all the time, right? And they're probably trying to protect it. And I was thinking at the time, God, this is the time now to go and see this, because I can imagine in the future, if Lebanon sorts itself out, they could really monetize that site because it's so incredibly well preserved. But right now, I'm not sure right now, but back then, just walk inside of it and it's just like, wow, what am I seeing? So that's incredible. And then we went to further north, which is like towards a city called Tripoli. And this is the poorest city, I think, in the Middle East, one of them anyway. And there's been civil wars there. So when you walk along some of the neighborhoods, you see like bullet holes in the buildings destroyed. And they've got some tensions there between the Shias, the Sunnis, the Alawites. But Jao has some contacts. So we got into some areas, had a chat with people, and it's quite eye-opening to see.
Yeah, I was going to ask you specifically, like, how did the locals accept basically tourists and travelers?
I think in Tripoli, they couldn't believe they saw a tourist. Because that's so under-traveled. I don't think you'd ever go there if you're going there solo. And even the tour groups that you probably book online, I don't think they'll go to Tripoli. So we got some real, like, proper good access into areas I don't even think we should have been in. But I remember one occasion we're in this market and it's below. So the Alawites and is it the Sunnis or Shias? I can't remember. But those two were having a little civil war between each other. They live on top of each other, right? So there's quite a lot of tension there. But at the bottom of that hill, there is a market, and we went into this market, and suddenly this crowd starts gathering, like asking us questions, like, "Who are you? Like, where are you from? Like, why are you here?" They're giving us sweets, giving us coffee. We chatted for like 20 minutes. And I think they just were a bit shocked that they had some tourists there. So that was quite a nice interaction. And also, I don't know if you want to leave this bit out, but in Tripoli, at the top in the castle, we did hear some gunshots, and we weren't sure what they were, and Jao wasn't sure either. And it's the first time on that trip where we're like, oh, okay, something's going not wrong, but like, what is this? Is it dangerous? Is it safe? All this sort of stuff goes through your mind. So we had to make a few phone calls. But essentially what happened was someone got killed in a car crash. I think two brothers in a car crash, and they buried the bodies on the same day, right? And they had a gun salute. So we kind of didn't know that. And there's like bullets flying in the air everywhere. No one seemed to be bothered, but we were like, oh, holy shit. So yeah, that was an interesting
gunshots
point.
in a foreign country such as that is, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And to finish on Lebanon, again, you might want to leave this out. This might be very controversial, but we did manage to go and see this amazing mosque. It's actually near Baalbek. It's actually a Hezbollah museum and a mosque. So the most incredible mosque you're going to see, it's like gold plated, like couldn't believe the interior. And then obviously Hezbollah museum, which is not great to read, but it's obviously interesting to hear. But there are Hezbollah fighters on the guard, on guard outside of the gates with guns and stuff, and they welcomed us in and gave us tea. Again, I don't think they could quite believe we were visiting, but looked after us really well. So that was our experience there. And then back round to Beirut, just to finish. In between Tripoli and Beirut, you've got these little coastal towns that look like Greece, like clear water, white buildings, those blue top churches. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was like, what is this country? I'm seeing caves in the east. I'm seeing these museums. I'm seeing these like civil war places. I'm seeing hippodromes. I'm seeing acropolises. And I'm seeing Beirut, which is decimated by the explosion a few years ago. And it's got half the buildings falling apart, but half have been renovated. Trendy areas for coffee and brunch. Like, what am I? It's just a, amalgamation of all the things you can imagine that you don't think exist in one country, but it was. Yeah.
So really, what I hear you saying is if not for the unrest, if things settle down there, it is definitely a place worth visiting.
Incredible. Yeah, I mean, Beirut is an incredible city if you get to go there. And I think the problem they've got, not going into politics too much, they don't really have a government there. It's not really run by the government, it's run by Hezbollah. So if they can somehow get the government going, the potential there is huge. But I don't know how that country actually functions because there's no government facilities. There's no one like helping the guys there. I mean, we got embroiled in a protest from ex government workers, cops, ex army people who just haven't been paid their pensions. But the government just don't pay their pensions, right? And they're protesting on the street. They're like, what else can we do? So there's no provisions there at all. But there is a weird trendy vibe to it where I guess if you've got money, you can make things work. So there's a weird yin and yang between, I guess, who is helpless and who has a lot of money. So I think if they can iron that out, I think as a whole, that'd be a great country to go and visit.
So those that have not are really suppressed.
I guess I wouldn't say suppressed. I guess it's just struggling. Like I
Yeah.
don't know
Okay.
if there's any industry there to get money, like to make money. There's no help from the government to repair the buildings from the explosion in the port, which for people was the biggest explosion outside of a nuclear explosion in
Wow.
peacetime. There's no like comeback on that. There's no one taking the blame for it. There's no compensation for the families. Yeah, there's protests going on. It somehow works, but doesn't work. And you've got these little communities like the Christian communities in the middle of the country that live like by the Greek towns on the water, like completely
Hmm.
idyllic. And you've got the Armenian community there who have been there for over 100 years. And so they're kind of settled in really nicely and they've got their own little communities. Yeah, it's just a weird country.
Sounds amazing. Like it does sound like how in the world is it even functioning in any way, shape, or form? And I'll say, I think I've mentioned them once or twice on the pod, which only once or twice in 6 months. But there's a site on a channel on YouTube called Discover Connection, and I just love what they do. If people haven't checked them out, I highly recommend. They travel around the world. They do all sorts of stuff all over the place, but one of the things they've done is gone to different places where you just wouldn't necessarily think to go. Like spring of this year, they took a trip to the Ukraine or to Russia first, and then a trip to the
Oh, yeah.
Ukraine immediately after. And what they do is they go knock on strangers' doors and they ask them if they can make a meal for them in their own home.
Oh,
And you would think the struggle, but the very first door they knocked on in Russia was this beautiful woman, just beautiful spirit who welcomed them in, and they had a great time. And then I think it was very quickly that they found a family in the Ukraine as well, and their story was just heartbreaking. And but they had such a great time, and they invited everybody and all their friends and family, and they had a huge party. And it's just, I think what I'm getting at is what you were telling me about, even going into that, like the poorest village or the poorest city, and for the people to welcome you and just be curious. And like, we have to keep in mind that no matter what's going on in any country or anywhere in the world, people are still people. And so I think we have these preconceived notions about, oh, well, they live in this place, so they must be this. And it's not true.
100% not. Yeah, we went to, I totally agree. Like, we went to an area in South Beirut, which is on the red zone, on the government advisory list for Lebanon. And because obviously the guide we had and his wife have contacts, we got to speak to some of these people who are, I think they're Palestinian, but passportless. They're maybe even born in Lebanon, but they have no passport because I guess you can't have dual passport. So they don't have a Lebanese passport. They don't have a Palestinian passport. They can't go anywhere. They're trapped. And they're in this cycle where the government does nothing for them. Obviously, Palestine is struggling, but they want to keep their culture. And I found it inspiring that they've still got hope and they're still working with UNICEF to get food, jobs, and try and get themselves out of the predicament they're in. But also, interestingly, they realize we're travelers and like, oh, have you been to these countries? Like in their mind, they probably got like a nice paradise, maybe vision of it, but maybe the reality doesn't hit home. That's well, now Palestine's effectively a war zone, so maybe they don't really have a good grasp of reality, but they've got this dream that maybe one day they'll get there and everything will be okay. So we had this like story of hardship and hope, but maybe a bit blinded by the future with too much hope, maybe of what it could be. So we got to speak to all these people, right? And some really intelligent, nice people got invited for tea. Saw, I think, like a Palestinian museum as well in this area. Yeah, tea shown around. Spoke to some UNICEF people, I think, involved in that. So yeah, these were just incredible stories and incredible people, and the hospitality was second to none.
I mean, I love that there's hope in situations like that. So that's awesome. And not having been there, even just hearing that briefly, it is inspiring, because I think without hope, man, it's all can very easily be lost. And so that's really cool to hear. There's a couple of other places, unless there's somewhere specific that you would like to kind of steer the conversation, because you're the one who knows the most impactful stories and experiences that you've had. So I'll leave that with you first.
Yeah. Okay. So just to finish on
Mm-hmm.
what you said a minute ago about the people, if people can just take the politics away for a second, just a second, and actually analyze them for the people they are. Based on my experience, everyone welcomed us throughout the country of Lebanon, whether they are Shias, Alawites, Christians, Armenians, Palestinians. They've got a full array of people there, colonial, French, if you like, you want to call them that, white European. Everyone treated us with an invitation to a coffee or a tea and a chat. No weird things going on, no danger.
Even
No.
different groups of people that may not get along if they were doing it together.
Oh yeah, I'll give you an example. We were in this like one of these Greek style towns in the middle of the country, right? Like an unbelievable town, like just like chilling by the water. And this old lady, white Christian old lady, was struggling to get into a taxi. So Soher, so Zhao's wife's called Soher. She helped her, off her arm, and she sort of hooked onto her arm and helped her into the taxi. And the old lady went to her. I asked her obviously afterwards because I don't understand Arabic that well. She's like, "Oh, why are you helping people like me?" And Soher was like, "Well, because I want to, and you need some help to get into the taxi." So even in their own country, they don't believe that the different factions of people like each other. I found that crazy. So Soher's like, "Yeah, unfortunately, this is the problem, right? We seem to be segregating into groups, and you've probably been segregated that long that you don't actually know what the other side is like." So yeah, she was shocked that a Shia Muslim lady was helping a Christian lady into a taxi. So that was the example I saw, and I couldn't believe what I was kind of hearing, really.
I mean, it sounds like just such a simple no-brainer thing to do.
Yeah,
You're
human thing to do. Yeah.
an elder, yeah, just needs a little bit of help, and so that's what
Yeah.
you do. And that could have possibly, that could be a moment that woman still remembers to this day,
Yes.
assuming she's still,
Crucial.
walking the earth. So that's incredible. Small acts can mean so much.
Yeah.
Again,
Absolutely.
and this comes back so much, James, in this podcast, which I love about it, is the humanity part of it. Like travel and humanity go hand in hand so much, and I don't think it's talked about enough. But I think if you're a true traveler and you've really had experiences around the world, I think you get it, and I think you understand that it's not even necessarily something like that, which again to me is a small thing, but it was a big moment for her. But even just going to another country and not speaking the language, but learning the basics and being able to laugh with someone who you don't even speak the same language, but you can still share a moment. And, those are things that I know that I remember forever. And so I have to imagine that it works both ways. So,
yeah. It's I think what you said, those small acts are so crucial. Maybe we need more of them in every part of the world. But hey, I think if we can do that to maybe someone we don't know or a community we're not sure of, maybe that will help in the long run for sure.
Yeah. And I've mentioned it too. Like if somebody comes here to the States or, I'm sure, to Canada, in an English speaking country and doesn't speak the language fluently, but still makes an effort, I don't think badly of anybody because they don't speak English. I don't go, oh, geez, come on. Now I've got to try to communicate with this person. Yeah. No, I will try my best, and I appreciate the effort, and we'll figure it out. But I think it's great. So
yeah, absolutely.
So unless there's a specific place, thank you for all of that, by the way. Unless there's a specific place that you want to go, like if we're just sitting down having a beer together or whatever your drink of choice is, it sounds like tea. So I had a lot of tea when you were over there, but whatever it is, and we just start sharing stories. Is there a place that you want to take things because these are your favorite stories to tell? If not, I do have a couple of places I want to talk about, but we have time.
I do have a place. We've got time, so let's go to yours first. I'll be keen to know what you want to know about because that's quite interesting.
Well, there's, again, a couple of places that I just have never spoken to anybody about.
Sure,
and
let's do them.
Jordan and Oman are the two places that I just have never had a conversation about. And those are the places like you read briefly about them in textbooks in school, but unless there's something major happening, I don't think of them as travel destinations really for much of any reason. And so I'm just interested to hear about those places if you don't mind.
Sure. So this was on our 2023 road trip, 2023 year trip a few years back. And in the Middle East, after Lebanon, I met my partner in Cyprus for my birthday. And then from there, we flew to Jordan, which is about a 30-minute flight, just across the water, into their capital, Amman. And our plan here was to road trip it because Jordan in the Middle East is probably the best country to travel to in the region for safety, things to see and do, and maybe the ease. Actually, alongside Oman, but I'll come to Oman in a second.
Can I interrupt you real quick and just ask you, what made you decide to go to these places?
Well, Jordan has obviously Petra, is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Petra is like one of the wonders of the world. Yeah, so that's kind of been on the list for a while, and we've just heard Jordan from other travelers that have been, and also my podcast at that point. I was like, I think we have to do this country, and the array of different things you can see in Jordan. What drove us to there was Petra, the Dead Sea, the desert, and the cities, the food, and also the safety. I think that probably drove us to go and see this place, because I think those combinations are quite rare in a lot of countries. So for the Middle East, it was a no-brainer. Yeah.
Makes sense.
So yeah, we got to Amman. The capital is called Amman, not Oman, Amman, and we acclimatized for a few days, and then we got a car and we road tripped for 2 weeks up and down the country. And then really it was
did you have places to stay already planned, or did you just kind of go?
Just go and maybe book the day before. Yeah, to go and see a place.
It's quite an adventure.
Yeah, an adventure, and there's no problems with internet there, so you can just go on booking.com or hostels.com or hotels.com, whatever you want, or Expedia, and just see what's available for Jordan. You can obviously plan it out in advance, but for a road trip, you never know what's going to happen. You might like a place, you might not like a place.
Mm-hmm.
So we just planned one day in advance.
Just being free to roam and not. So, and I don't want to get off track, but I love doing that in a place, and I don't get to do it often enough. Just going somewhere with enough time to be able to maybe have a loose itinerary. I want to hit these 3 places or whatever, but other than that, we're just going to go and see what we see. I think there's a lot of value in that. So awesome.
Yeah, I think it's based on the country's geography, right? So for someone like Oman, that's a huge country, or Saudi Arabia. I mean, you're going to need some days to travel, right? So Jordan, not too dispersed. I think 2 weeks is a good amount of time on a road trip, and it gives you a bit of time to play with. So yeah, we just kind of left Amman, went north, went to a castle, and Jerash has got a castle there. You can overlook the fields, like olive fields, and it's like the Mediterranean, pretty much.
I'm going to interrupt you again. I'm so sorry. But no? It just, my own curiosity gets to me. How much of, when you do something like this, a road trip like that, how much of your itinerary comes from talking to other travelers or locals and getting recommendations from other people?
Yeah, we asked our guest house host in Amman for some tips, and also the people who we got the car off. Alongside, I guess I knew the country fairly well with what to see and do. There were a few places on the road trip that we went to that were last minute recommendations. But yeah, kind of a mix, I think. Stuff we definitely want to see, like Petra and the Dead Sea. And then in between, we're kind of driving around and see what's there. So things like Jerash and Ajalun, like they're north of the country. They've got huge castles and Roman ruins. Don't know much about them. Just read or heard from someone that they're pretty cool to go and see and do. So we kind of booked into a hostel and went and saw those. And then obviously drove down to the main attraction of Petra, which is a 2 or 3 day trip, I'd say. And the best thing about Jordan is at the airport, you can book what's called the Jordan Pass. So people can put that into Google. And this pass gets you into 75 attractions across the country. It's about 75 jod, I think. Or maybe $75. I can't quite remember the price. But the jod is the currency, and it's quite strong. It's stronger than the pound. So you need some money to go to Jordan. But for us, we got this pass and we added an extra day for Petra. So that kind of helped because we had this booklet of all these attractions we can go and see and do, right? So we kind of, I guess, based our rough road trip plan out of there. And yeah, kind of set off on the road, really. Also, interestingly, to add to note to this is that we were in Ramadan times. So it was actually a different vibe. For people who are interested, Ramadan, there's going to be nothing open during the day unless it's a hotel. So if you're looking for food or drink outside of your hotel or hostel, I don't think you're going to find it unless it's in Petra.
Because they're not eating.
Yeah.
Or drinking.
Yeah. What's really cool experience in Ramadan is that you can go to those iftar meals in the evening. So when they do start to eat, which is like after sundown, it's like a feast.
I was
Like
gonna
every
say it's all.
restaurant,
Yeah, I was gonna
it's
say
just
it's a lot of food.
a lot of food. Like no a la carte meal. There's buffet. You go straight in, pay a price, and have as much as you want. So that was incredible as well.
Yeah. So awesome. I can't even imagine being there to experience that. I did speak to one guest who was also in an area like that during Ramadan, and she said she was walking down the street drinking just a bottle of water or something, and she just kept getting all these looks, and she was like,
Yeah,
I just don't understand. And then it finally dawned on her, and she felt so embarrassed. But
I
you
think
know,
for tourists, you probably get away with it. A bit of ignorance, maybe.
mm-hmm.
We actually went to a cafe which was open during the day, and he said, "Look, I can serve tourists, but I'm gonna have to close the blind and put you like in the corner of the cafe if you want a coffee and a soup. It's prepared already. I can serve it to you, but yeah, just know you kind of be hidden a little bit from daylight, from outside. So
Mm-hmm.
they are quite wary about it, and I guess they don't like it that much.
Yeah.
So we quickly learned that maybe we just need to fill up on breakfast as much as possible and wait until the evening, which
Well,
was went to the shop in the evening, got some snacks for the day, right, and just done it that way. I think, yeah,
that's incredible, though. I mean, to even have the door open, like they must have known that there may be some tourists or someone that would walk in, so that's why they were prepared. But
yeah,
to kind of keep it not
yeah,
necessarily secretive, but just I think part of it probably is just out of respect for
respect,
yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah. But if people want me to reel off the high level road trip, it was in the north. It was from Amman to Jerash to look at the castle, then to Ajlan to look at the amazing Roman ruins. Again, there's another hippodrome type vibe. Then we drove south, so we went to Petra. Now Petra's going to get busy, so make sure you get there when it opens before the tour buses arrive. So if you get there between 7 and 8:30 in the morning, you're going to see the treasury, which is the main site of Petra, with no one there, maybe a camel and a Bedouin, maybe.
it's
That's the time to
amazing
go.
things like that I in my experience as well. To me, it's a no brainer. First thing in the morning is the best time to go, but
Mm.
it's amazing to me the amount of people that just I don't know if they're just not early risers or just don't get it, and they'll arrive either late morning or early afternoon or midday to see these places. And like I had the same experience in Machu Picchu. It was like first
Oh,
thing in
yeah.
the morning, absolutely the time to go because it's so less populated. And why? I mean, it's an amazing time to see when the fog is lifting. And anyway, I'm getting off on something
No,
else.
I agree.
But
Machu
if
Picchu was the same for us, yeah. Early
yeah, but
morning at the
if you're
gates.
going somewhere like that, that's just an amazing sight to see. Go first thing in the morning. I don't care if you have to get up at 4. It doesn't matter. It's worth it.
I think because we went to the day before at midday and we saw what it was like at maybe the busiest period. We're like, no, tomorrow we're not doing this.
Yeah, that's what
So
we did the
yeah,
flip flop. I'm sorry, no, that's actually what we did with Machu Picchu. Is we went midday, and then the next day we went first thing in the morning. We did 2 different trails to kind of really see it all. So
yeah. So
great way to see a place.
I recommend going early for
Yep,
Petra.
yep.
And the best thing for Petra is you'll get the ground level view and you can hike up to a cafe. I actually don't know what the cafe is called, but it can't be too hard to search on Google. Like cafe view of the treasury. I've got some pictures, obviously, I can send if people want to know what that looks like. It probably takes about 45 minutes to get up, a lot of steps. It's just before it's getting hot. Honestly, when you get up there and have maybe an orange juice or water, it's incredible. Like the view is insane. And because of the angle, it doesn't matter what time of day you go because you're not going to see too much of the crowds. You get to see the treasury in its entirety into the rocks. So that's a recommended tip for Petra. And alongside Petra, we went to the Dead Sea, went and floated in the water. And then we went to the Dana Biosphere, which is like this extra area of this reserve where it's like walking into like Mars. We did a hike, I think a 16K hike actually, one day. That was epic.
Wow.
In this eco lodge on the perch of the hill, and we hiked down, walked through the middle of this valley, and got picked up at the other end, and they drove us back. Incredible, flat, so not hilly, apart from the first bit going down. That's incredible. So the eco lodge in Dana village is incredible. Great views, great sunrises, and then yeah, we went to Wadi Rum, the desert, and yeah, that's an interesting experience in the desert. Just kind of sleeping in a tent, pure silence. Never experienced anything like it. So that was the rough itinerary. And then we finished with Aqaba on the Red Sea, which is like the Jordan holiday destination. So that was a nice way to finish a holiday.
I think one thing to mention too, and again, like it's a travel story podcast, but I think some information is a good thing as well. Like when you think about, I want to go to Rome or to Athens or to wherever and see these ruins, understanding that the Italian influence and the Greek influence is all over the place. So there are so many
Yeah.
different countries that you can go to and see the architecture that you could see. Maybe not the same exact buildings, but like you even said before about the Acropolis style building that was there that you could walk into. Like
Yeah.
I didn't have that experience when I was in Athens or wherever. Like just again realizing that you can kind of see those things in other countries because it's all over.
Yeah, I think what
They
I loved about those
stretched pretty
countries,
far.
yeah, it's all over. But I love the, like the stadiums. I think they're called amphitheaters, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many of them. You can just go up to the steps and just sit there and just like,
Just
I guess,
imagine.
just imagine and just watch people check it out. It's an incredible thing all over Jordan, for example, that you can go and see.
And
For
some of the
sure.
places they actually still do. They'll still do shows and stuff today, whether it's music or plays or like some sort of theater. I just can't even imagine sitting there and kind of being transported back in time.
Yes, yeah, incredible. And we got to speak to a Bedouin in Wadi Rum as well. We had a tea and some fruit, and he owns the camp, right? And he said towards the end of the camp, he said, "Oh, do you want to do some sand bashing?" And we're like, "We're not sure what that is." He goes, "Basically, you come with me in my truck, and we go and basically tackle some sand dunes." so he took us off in his jeep, and it was on the way back to, I guess, like civilization where our car was parked. And he just drove up these almost like vertical, going up these sand dunes and like attacking these sand dunes and going down vertical. Crazy, like 5
Oh my
minutes.
gosh, what a rush!
Yeah. But pure silence, right? Just think for a second. Have you experienced pure silence? I don't think I have until I went to Wadi Rum.
I don't think I have, and that's one of those things that there's those chambers that you can go into that are like you're somewhat submerged, I think, and those are supposed
Oh,
to
yeah.
sensory
Yeah.
sensory thing. And I've thought about going into something like that, but I mean that would be the ultimate would be to be in a beautiful place that's just out there and just in nature is just that silent. I would have no idea.
Yeah. So if you want to experience that, a desert in Oman or Jordan, an experience is definitely the way to go. We sat at the top of a sand dune for sunset, and it was just a bit of wind, but just pure silence. And as far as the eye can see, just sand, like golden sand dunes.
To
Incredible.
not even hear an insect or an
Yeah.
animal.
Yeah.
Insane. Were you there were you ever there in the dark?
Oh, we stayed overnight. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, how was that? I mean,
Yeah.
not just the
Stargazing's incredible.
silence, but
Yeah.
the millions and billions of stars I'm sure that you could see.
Yeah. And there was only another couple there with us. So
Oh my gosh.
really just kind of sitting there having dinner and tea. Went dark quite quickly and just sat and watched the stars. Went to bed early, like really tired, had a great sleep. Yeah, like as good as it gets really in terms of a natural experience.
I feel like it almost could be difficult to sleep because we're so used to some noise, whether
Yeah.
it's even just white noise or something, but to
Yeah.
have nothing.
Yeah.
Did you make friends with anyone? Like not just, hey, we had a good time together, went our separate ways, but have you actually made connections with anyone traveling in any of your travels that you've even maybe still have today?
Oh, what, since the beginning of time?
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Loads. Yeah. They've been in the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I have met quite a few people. And I think there's a difference in time. There's the early days and the newer days. I think there's a difference in that. Whereas the early days is probably a bit more of a like going out partying or drinking or doing like a crazy activity, which has got one particular vibe. And then now it's, I'm a bit older and I'm probably doing more cultural stuff. So, for example, my last trip in El Salvador, I met some great people in El Salvador, more my age, more there just to see the country, do these amazing activities, and just traveled around and kept in contact with loads of them, right? All different types of countries. So, yeah, I do try to make friends. I don't force it though. I kind of leave it to to do naturally, but like free walking tours is a great way to meet people. And I go to hostels mainly, or lower to mid hotels. So yeah, kind of the backpacker traveling around a little bit, and you do see quite a few of those.
And I've recommended these a few times on the pod, just because early on in my travels, it was always let's plan it ourselves and let's do what we want to do, and even asking for recommendations of places to go and see, whatever, that's one thing. But the first time that we ever did an actual walking tour of a place, that was it. That was almost every place we go to from then forward, we did a walking tour, just because they're not that expensive. It's 2 or 3 hours of information and experiences
Mm-hmm.
that you could never have. Maybe you might stumble upon a place, but you find local, out of the way, hole in the wall type places with some of the best food and some of the stories that you would never know. Like even just walking in Venice and seeing the bricks on the streets and with names on them, and understanding that those were people that were involved in the Holocaust. Like
Mm.
I would have never known that. I would have just thought they were just names on the bricks. And again, in finding food that I never would have discovered. We did a walking tour in Medellin in Colombia that was
Oh,
just
amazing.
amazing, and I'll never forget any bit of that. I mean, the young man that was our tour guide was there through everything with the cartels, and and when the military came in and finally cleaned everything up and eradicated all of that. Like, for somebody who lived right there in the middle of it to be giving the tour, like, experiences I just never would have had another way. So I highly, highly recommend. Sometimes you can even find free ones that they just accept donations.
That's what I do. Yeah, I go onto Guru Walk and find free ones. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
and I actually
excellent.
sometimes ask the guide to be a guest in the podcast. That's a good way to get local guests.
That's excellent.
That's a technique I use to get some locals. So, like in El Salvador last year, two of my guests from San Salvador, the capital, were my free walking tour guides. So that's pretty cool to get their thoughts on the country and what it's been like for the last 30 years.
Yeah, excellent. You and I might differ on that a little bit because I'm so focused on the stories of different places, but that would be excellent. I'm probably gonna just start from episode 1. How long have you been doing your pod? I know it's been many years.
Oh, 4.5 years. Yeah,
Geez.
February 2021.
So I have some binging to do, I guess. So yeah, but I think I may just start back at the beginning because I'm really intrigued to hear some of the guests that you've had on. So I know you said you had a place in mind that you wanted to talk about. So let's go with you.
Oh yeah, it is El Salvador. Yeah, last year.
And again, another place I really don't think we've talked about. So
yeah, it's controversial in the news, right? I don't know what people think of it because
I know it's considered a high risk country right now to us.
To US
Mm-hmm.
citizens. Oh wow, okay, right. I went last year in November, and I wasn't sure what to expect, but I did do it solo, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a go and travel on local buses, and I had the most incredible time. So much so that I think I might try and take a tour group there next year. It's on the cards, maybe. But yeah, I just had the most incredible time seeing all these sites that I knew not much about, and I didn't know if it's going to be safe. I didn't know what they eat or what they ate. I don't even know what to see there. So I kind of really winged it, like proper winged it style, old school. Landed into San Salvador, got myself acclimatized. The first morning walking down the street, I was like, right, let's get a vibe for this place. Totally fine. Did the walking tour with Dave in San Salvador, learned more about the history and the current situation. Then I did a walking tour with someone called Carlos, learned more. Checked out some sites on my own in San Salvador. Then I just jumped on the bus around the country. So the main aim was to learn about the Civil War. So I did a Civil War tour in Suchitoto, which is a little colonial town about an hour east-ish of San Salvador. And this tour was incredible. We got to hike into the hills and see all the lookouts and the old camps that the guerrillas used to stay in, and learn about their side of the story. And they got to interview the guide, who was like probably maybe my age, 35, going on 40, probably. He had someone who was double his age, who used to be in the Civil War, come and talk to us for half an hour. And we got to ask questions. This guy's called Nelson. And I had like 100 questions.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem was I was with a G Adventures tour group. So So basically, I arranged this tour for the morning on my own through WhatsApp. Spoke to a guy, met a guy in a museum. He gave me a number. I spoke to this guy. He gave me another number. So I eventually got to this tour. And then that was joining a G Adventures tour group who wants to do the same tour that morning, right? So I had a younger crowd with me who weren't really that interested, bar a few people in the Civil War part. I was like, how can you not be interested? Anyway, so I asked a load of questions and just got to hear their side. And Daniel, who runs the tour, he speaks great English and he translated for us. And that, alongside the waterfall that we saw at the end and a little hike and the viewpoint, was incredible. What a tour that was. That's a highlight.
Is that also on an episode?
That would be on my Suchi Toto episode, yeah. I don't think I did immersive. I think I've done a solo episode for that. I can't quite remember. I need to check because I want to explain that more rather than give you an experience. Because I think it's more important to learn what that tour is about, how to book it, the cost, and where it is in Suchi Toto. So I think there are quite important details that people should know and should do if they visit.
Excellent. So, being mindful of time, we're creeping up a little bit where we should probably start to wrap up a little bit. Just and shifting gears, I guess, and going on emotion. Tell me maybe one or two of the craziest, most out of this world adventures or experiences that you've had. Maybe something just super hilarious or just something so impactful to you that just kind of hits you in the feels and like you'll just never forget, that maybe we haven't talked about yet. Any of those. Take your pick.
I'll go with a story first. I did get held up at the border in Laos. I've told the story quite a lot on podcasts, but it's quite a funny one. I entered Laos just backpacking solo, which is it's in between Thailand and Vietnam. I entered Laos on the Vietnam side, land border. And when I got to the Thai side, so the other side of Laos, there's a river to cross. And I got to the border and this guy was like shouting at me. I had no idea what he's talking about. And he wouldn't stamp my passport. I was like, what is this guy doing? So I got my passport, told him that I'm just going to walk off. He kept shouting at me, got on a boat, crossed the river to Thailand, to the border security there. And I said, look, I don't know what's going on, but that guy kept shouting at me, but I'm here to go into Thailand. He looks at my passport, a bit more professional, speaks English. And he said, oh, you can't come into Thailand. And I said, why the hell not? And he said, oh, you haven't got a stamp into Laos. I was like, oh,
no.
I was like, how did I miss this? Like, genuine mistake. I was like, oh my God. All my friends that I was with seemed to have stamps. So I don't know how I missed this.
Oh, no.
So they wandered off to the place for lunch and the Jeep. I was like, oh, what do I do? I'll have to go back. So before they went off to lunch, one guy gave me like a bundle of US dollars. I had a bundle of Thai baht. I was like, right, I'm going to have to go back and sort this out. I had no idea what to expect, really. So my friends went off, went on my own, back on the boat.
Nice of them to be there with you for support.
Yeah, I guess it's hard for them to go back because they're going to have to go out of Thailand and do the whole border crossing thing, right? I don't blame them. But at least they gave me US dollars, which became crucial in the end. And I got onto the boat, and as I rode back into the Laos side of the river, there's 4 guys waiting for me. One's like a captain with a gun, and 3 guys like pointing at me. I was like, oh my God, like I've been pointed out at all this crowd of people.
Pointing at you, like, fingers or with guns?
Yeah, no, fingers. Telling me to come this way. I was like, I have no choice really. I need to work out what's going on. And they led me away to this office on the border, and they sat me down, and they asked if I spoke Laotian, which I don't. I said no. I do speak English though. Okay. And in this office, there was a TV that had snooker on. So being from UK, I know snooker. I think Ronnie O'Sullivan was playing a game. Really strange and random. Sat me down, 3 guys, 1 guy standing up, 3 sitting down, and the captain with the gun starts speaking to me. And he explains that I can't leave Laos because I don't have a stamp. It's like, yep, I've worked that one out from the Thai border. I was like, how do we resolve this? And he's like, well, how we resolve this is we put a stamp in your passport. I was like, yeah, that sounds good.
Yes.
But he said, at a price. I was like, and he said, for $70 US, I can put this stamp in your passport and you can go. I was like, this is not good. So I said no. I said no, I'm not paying $70. And he said that's fine. We can just we can negotiate. And we sat there for half an hour, back and forth, trying to negotiate $70 down to something, and they would not move. They would not budge. And I think
they said we can negotiate, and so you tried to negotiate, and they said, "Yeah, 50, no, 70."
yeah, 65, nope, 70. I was like, oh my god! For half an hour, I tried all the techniques. I tried to sweet talk them. I tried to go angry. I tried to silent treatment. I tried to talk about snooker on a TV. Just nothing was working, right? And I was like completely thrown into the situation I've never been in before. So I was trying to keep calm. I was cognizant of the time because I don't want to miss my bus to Chiang Mai. I was like, my friends are going to go without me. I'm going to be on my own. That's fine. I can deal with that. But I just need to get out of this country, really. I was like, what do I do? So I kind of gave up in my mind, really. I was like, I'm going to have to give them $70. So at the end, I said, look, this is not on. This is bribery. You can literally put the stamp in the passport now and let me go. They're like, no, it's going to cost $70. And whatever. So I said, look, okay, I'm just going to pay it. I said, oh, do you accept Thai baht or US dollars? And they went, both. Okay, so how much Thai baht is it? And they gave me the amount in Thai baht. And it's still $70 US. So I was doing the maths in my head. I was like, I think that Thai baht, what they said, is equivalent to $62. I knew the exchange rate, right?
Okay.
So if I give them Thai baht, at least I save $8, and I can buy myself a meal in Chiang Mai that night and pay for a hostel. So I quickly said, yeah, I'll do Thai baht. So I gave them the Thai baht, and instantly, as soon as I gave the money, stamp in the passport, away you go. Instantly. Off you go. I was like, oh, God. All that to and fro, all that negotiation, waste of time. And I got back across the border, pretty angry at this point. I was like, oh, it's just, $70 back in or $62 back in those, or 63, whatever it is, back in those days, was quite a lot of money in Southeast Asia. Got to the same guy on the Thai border, and he started like umming and ahhing. And he's like, I'm not sure about this.
No.
I said, hang on, no, I'm not having this. I paid the money. It's cost me this amount of money.
But you paid it to them.
There's a stamp in and out. Let me go. And he sort of just stamped my passport and waved me off into Thailand.
Man.
So eventually got there, and I made the bus with a minute to go. They're literally about to leave. So timed it quite well.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. That could have turned out much worse.
Yeah. I guess I had no more money on me apart from the combined Thai baht and US dollar, right? Yeah, I guess that could have gone wrong. So I feel like I got away with that a little bit, but
wow,
learned a lot from that whole scenario, right? But lessons about myself and how things don't always go well. You need to adapt and all that sort of stuff.
So great. I'm trying to think if there's any of the other places that you mentioned that I just really want to touch on before we get to the final
Oman?
5 questions.
Oman?
Yeah. Absolutely.
The story of Oman is we tried to wild camp or boondock, if you want to use an American term.
Okay.
And this is May, and it's way too hot. I don't know what we're thinking. So we went to Muscat. We rented a car, rented some tenting gear from this guy called Chris, UK guy who lives in Muscat. I think it's called Nomad Chris, I think on Google, maybe. And he said, oh, what are you doing? We said, oh, we're gonna wild camp for a week. He said, what, in this weather? We're like, oh, it's not too hot, is it? He goes, well, it's getting hotter. I was like, He goes, you might get away with it in like the coastal areas, maybe the breeze. He goes, just keep WhatsApp and message me if you get in trouble or whatever. I was like, okay.
When was this?
This is May 2023.
Okay.
After Jordan.
Yeah.
And we drove off. And Oman is incredible. Like, imagine Jordan, but with no one there. Oman is, I guess, it's like a similar vibe to Saudi Arabia, like swathes of desert, new roads, cheap gas, and no rules for boondocking. You can camp anywhere. I think it's the safest country in the Middle East, Oman. So looked after really well. The beaches are idyllic. And we dotted around the country, went and saw some old towns, went to Masira Island in the south, went to Nizwa in the middle, which is like this old desert fort town. And we went to some coastal towns, saw some green turtles in a reserve at night. Ethical. Yeah, it wasn't a bad tour. Done our research. That was incredible. So we had this most amazing time, but I'll be honest, way too hot, and we gave up after 7 nights. I think the last 3 nights we Well, I think the last couple of nights we stayed in the hostel was it was too hot. Like Nizwa, for example, we tried to camp. It's 40 degrees Celsius. No way that's happening.
Jeez.
So we ditched that, and yeah, just a similar vibe to Jordan. Lots of Roman ruins, lots of desert, lots of wildlife, and also lots of like island life in the south. Pretty incredible. And the most amazing people. They all speak English. Very easy to travel. Signs everywhere, and they take their own money, but it's all just signposted in Arabic or English, right? So very easy way to travel. But if I was to go back, I'd go in the colder months and still camp, and I'd order a jeep, and I'd go back to the places we went to, because we went to some like oasis towns in the hills with like these like little lakes you can go and sit in with by palm trees in the middle of the desert, like proper oasis
Oh my
stuff.
gosh.
So love to go back and try that again.
What kind of food are you eating in a place like that?
Okay, Jordan food was like chickpeas and falafels
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of roasted lamb and chicken and beef. No pork, obviously.
Yeah.
No pork in Oman. Oman was a bit more westernized, so I'd say you probably could get any food. Could be like McDonald's or KFC. Could be
Hmm.
local food like chickpeas and wraps. But I'd say it's more international cuisine. I don't actually remember the food in Muscat, so we must have just cooked when we were camping, just basic food, right? Salads and stuff like that.
And not very expensive.
Uh, Oman is expensive, yeah.
Mm. Okay.
But the one thing they have going for it is the gas could be like 50 cents a gallon or something, right? So it's
Oh
super
wow.
cheap.
Yeah, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. If you're traveling by vehicle, yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Is there anything before we get to like any other like just standout stories or experiences that you want to mention before we get to the final 5 questions that I have for you? Which sometimes those spur stories anyway, but
I'm trying to think of new ones.
and I know that
um,
we're missing 100 plus, but there's only so much time.
sure. I will say a note on Nepal, I think, because it is a favorite.
Hmm.
Nepal, obviously north of India in the Himalayas. If you want proper mountain views of 7,000 meter plus mountains and the odd 8,000 plus, and you're comfortable hiking in altitude, and you can imagine walking these trails, there's like yaks going by you, not very busy, tea houses every village you can stay in, the most incredible food and scenery. I think that's a magical place, and I would say yes, going back every time. So Nepal, we've done a few treks there, the Annapurna. I did the Langtang Valley trek last year, and Kathmandu is a crazy city, and Pokhara on the lake is also which is the gateway when you go up to Everest and stuff like that. You can fly from there to Lukla and do the Everest Base Camp. I think wandering around in the mountains on trails is a pretty incredible experience if you can do it. So Nepal is top notch.
How often do you get to go somewhere and have yak walking by you? Uh,
Every
Not
hour,
many places. Yeah, not many places that
but
you get to see that.
no, and you can eat like yak butter and yak milk, stuff like that if you're brave enough.
Did you?
I had some yak milk, yeah. Not a fan.
No, fair. What makes Kathmandu so crazy?
It's like India light.
Okay.
They're not going to like that, I don't think. But imagine a bog standard Indian city, dusty, busy, chaos. Kathmandu is the capital of Nepal, so you're going to get that at its most intense in Nepal, I think. And it's absolute contrast to maybe like the hills and the Himalayas, right? It's like yin and yang. We have seen other parts of the country which is not like that, but the roads are terrible in Nepal. So traveling, I don't know, 150 miles might take 10 hours. It's crazy. So you need to be having a bit of patience when you travel. But the Kathmandu is just full of scams, full of crazy people, full of backpackers, travelers, full of historic sites, temples, a lot of temples, and just a great place to be hanging around for a few days.
I have to imagine in your travels you've experienced a fair amount of street food.
Yeah, it's a priority. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
rule. Yeah, best street food I think I've had is Taiwan. That's up there.
Hmm.
Taiwan has great street food, and India and Nepal does have great street food, but you need to be careful. I wouldn't eat the meat. I'll go vegetarian.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I think also Thai street food is actually that's the best, isn't it? Yeah, I think now I'm going to Thai. Thai street food is the best, and then Taiwan number two.
Experience wise, not just the food itself, but just the vibe and the
Yep,
feel. There, it's also those two places.
yep. I think it's going to be chaotic. Taiwan's a bit more orderly actually, but for Thailand in street markets, it's just like condensed areas with lots of people and trying to track your order, and you're sitting on those like little plastic chairs on the street, and you have a beer and
I was going to say lots of beer,
a
right?
green, and a green curry. Yeah, it's up there.
Oh, I got to get to Thailand too.
It's a favorite. Yeah.
That's up there, man. Okay, well, let's do the final 5 questions. I feel like we should do this
Sure.
again sometime down the road. Hopefully, we can keep in touch. I loved this very
Absolutely.
much. This has been great.
Yeah.
So, do you know my final 5 questions?
I do not.
I love it. That's my
Going to
favorite.
be surprising 5 questions, I think. Hopefully.
Yeah, and nothing's crazy, but
Yeah.
okay. So, and it sounds like you enjoy food, and I love that because I definitely have guests that are like, no, I'm not a foodie. I don't really care about the food. So, my question number 1 is: of all of the places in the world, and I'm very careful to phrase it the way that I phrase it. Of all the places in the world that you've been outside of your own home, some people like to say, oh, my mom's, whatever, your favorite, most memorable meal experience that you've ever had?
There's 2.
2 is fine.
Okay. I'm going to go with the first meal that I had in Bangkok in 2013 when we just arrived on our big adventure. And we arrived in the hostel, went to a random side street into a food market, and I ordered, I think it's Thai green curry and a beer with my friend. And I sat there, I was like, we've made it. We've done it. We're here. Like, we're living it. It's been a build up for 2 years at that point, over 2 years. And we've been talking about it, planning it, booking it. And we finally got there, jet lagged, like just the senses were over the shot. A bit of culture shock in there as well. But on the street with a beer, eating Thai green curry, just like, yeah, this is what it's made for.
They just call it green curry, though, there, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. So awesome. I can actually imagine that because, I mean, I've been in experiences similar, so that's awesome.
Yeah, and the second one is Nepal after a tough day's hike. I remember in Annapurna, I think one of the guest houses we stayed at, like maybe the second or third day, we had a little rooftop restaurant in this guest house, and they brought us over a dal bat. And I remember looking over the hill to the mountains, pure silence, some yaks in the background, and there wasn't many people in the guest house because our guide took us down a different route, and we just sat there. I said to Emma, my partner, I said, I think this is like the perfect place in Nepal to stay, like comfortable room, super great value, rooftop. Drinking, I had a Coke at that point with a dal bat, just sitting there, just looking at the view. Couldn't believe it. So I think that's up there as well.
Love it. Love it so much. Awesome. Okay, question number 2. One of my favorite questions because I always get very interesting answers. Of all of the places in the world that you have been, James, if I offered you a free trip, where would you say, no, thank you, I don't want to go back?
Oh, that's Bali.
That has been probably the number 1 answer. Only 2, maybe 3 people have said that, but in the amount of episodes I have, I mean, that's...
Yeah.
Wow. For you, why?
I didn't like the place. Didn't have a great time or experience. I think now it's gentrified to the point where there's communities there that are just living like, I guess, like a Western community, but in a cheaper country.
Mm-hmm.
But they're making it more expensive for the locals and are not integrating with the locals, I think, personally. So I think you find lots of communities in Bali that have no Balinese in it. And I'm not sure I agree with it. I think it's happening worldwide with lots of places, right? Like gentrification and stuff or over tourism. But that place for me was the max. So no, thank you.
Yeah. And I've heard that a lot of tourists are really making it more dirty than it should be and not taking care of the place that they're in. Although I have heard from everyone that's been there so far that the Balinese people are beautiful people.
Absolutely. 100%.
Which makes it almost even more of a shame.
Yeah.
That there's so much beauty there in just the place itself and the people. What a waste.
Yeah. Absolute waste.
All right. Well, flipping that, let's make it more pleasant. Of all of the places in the world that you have been, where is the one or two places, if you could only pick one or two, that you absolutely have to go back to?
Japan is number one for that. And number two, it's going to be a more cliche answer. I think it's New Zealand. I think if I was to pick two, they'd be the two.
Where in New Zealand did you go, just out of curiosity? I've mentioned this numerous times. My daughter lives there now, but may
Oh,
only live there until like middle of next year or so. And I have not yet been. So I'm trying to get there. She lives in Wellington.
that's
So
where
I'm
I
just,
lived. Yeah.
oh, really?
Yeah. For a year. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was great.
Yep.
I mean,
I
she
mean,
loves it.
I love that little city. Yeah. It's like a small Vancouver, actually. It's by the water.
Mm.
Got similar vibes. Yeah. Loved it. We're itching to go back, actually. Got some friends there from when we lived there. So I think that is high on our list. I think in terms of the locations of going to, like I did road trips 3 times there. I think the first time in 2013 was the Kiwi Experience. I don't know if you heard of that, but it's a big green bus for a load of youngsters going around the country, partying and seeing some sights. That was an incredible experience. Met some great friends on there. And then we road tripped it before and during our work permit there. So we've done this North and South Island pretty extensively. I feel like I've seen the country a lot, but for some reason, I always want to kind of go back to it, I think. I don't know what it is, something about it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, of every single person that has mentioned New Zealand, is it's either somebody who wants to go so badly, or if anyone has been there, I have not yet had one person say that they would not go back. That they and on the contrary, everyone wants to go back. So
Yes,
I have to get there while I have a reason, a good reason to go.
gotta go.
So,
You'll love it.
yeah, so I'm hoping to go like maybe late spring when it's kind of their fall.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. Fingers crossed. So all right, question 4 is, of all of the places in the world that you have not been, where do you absolutely have to go? And I say not bucket list, because my bucket list is extensive. But if there are one or two places you have to go before you die, where are those places?
Well, Bhutan is on that list because for many reasons. It's carbon negative. It's one of the most well preserved cultures and countries in the world. So that's why I'm going this year. And I've got a feeling that if I go once, I want to go back. So I've got that feeling. So Bhutan is definitely there before I die. Just trying to think of another place where I have to go. Have to
It doesn't
go.
have to be more than one. If that's the one, that's
No, there's got to be
fair.
another place in there.
The world is so vast.
I'm a paradise seeker.
Mm,
So I always think about French Polynesia. So I think it has to be there as well.
okay, that's a good answer.
Yeah, I've been to Cook Islands and that was insane. I just want to see French Polynesia. So yeah, that's one I have to go to. Yeah, that's non-negotiable.
Yeah, that's a great answer, actually. Yeah, that's a good answer. All right. Unless there's anything that has popped up into your mind that you want to talk about, we'll head to question 5.
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. Question 5 is easy. It's, you already know and you already mentioned, but maybe there's somewhere else as well. What's on your docket? What's already planned or sort of planned? Where are you going?
Okay, so yeah, I'm going to Europe in a couple of weeks. I'm going to a new country which I've never been to, which is quite maybe a shock. I've never been to Czech Republic, so I'm going to Prague and Český Krumlov, a
My
nice little
friend,
town on the river.
that is where
Yeah,
my daughter went to school. So I was there twice to visit her, and that's
yeah.
where she actually did a semester abroad, met up in New Zealand, and that's where she met her now boyfriend, and that's why she's there.
Ah,
Prague,
interesting.
Prague is beautiful, absolutely
Yeah,
beautiful. You will love it.
can't wait. Yeah, going there and then getting the train down to Český Krumlov, which is like a nice little castle town in the south by the border of
Mm,
Germany. And then I'm going across to Munich to meet a couple of creators that I've met in the last few years. One has just been a guest. They're called Matt and Nat, YouTubers. And Chris and Sarah, who do podcast and YouTube. They were meeting together, and I've managed to make it work. That I'm going to meet them in Munich for Oktoberfest. So we're going to have a nice little catch up there and an ease
come
up.
on, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm not a drinker really, so I'm just going for the catch up and the odd Stein. But I've been before, but that's another story for another time, I think. But yeah, so that's going to be a cool trip. And then I'm back to UK seeing family. And then later in the year, I'm flying to Brisbane to go and watch the cricket with a few friends. And then flying up to Bangkok to go see Bhutan for 10 days. And then Bangkok for a weekend, which would be pretty cool. Go back to revisit what I did in 2013 where it all first started. So I'm looking forward to that.
So awesome.
And then I'm meeting my partner in Mexico, most probably for Christmas and New Year's. We're not sure yet. Maybe Mexico and somewhere else, but definitely Mexico. And then next year, we're thinking Cuba in April. And then I mentioned before, later in the year, I'm going to maybe take a tour to El Salvador. So I could be going back to El Salvador in November, December time. I'm just wrapping up the details now and hopefully getting it confirmed by end of next week.
Man, so awesome, man. I swear, I'm jealous of the amount of experiences that you've had. And I hope to someday get to that point where I can I'll never catch up to you, but to have some sort of the level of travel and experiences that you have had. It's wonderful. It's awesome. And I hope that people will take the chance to listen to your podcast and hear, because you have some back and forth too. You're sharing some of your experiences when you're having these conversations with people too. And I just love every bit of what travel is and what it does for us in our lives. And I just have nothing but thanks for you for taking this amount of time with me. I know how important your time is, how little you have to spare. So I really, really appreciate it. Anything you'd like to add or say to kind of wrap things up before we hit stop?
I just want to say thanks for inviting me on. It's been a great chat. I've loved it. And you're so kind with your kind words. And just want to say it's not a competition for anyone listening. You just need to be honest with yourself about what you want to see and do. Don't think you have to go somewhere because someone says so. You might hate New Zealand, and that's absolutely fine.
Mm-hmm.
But give it a chance because it's a pretty cool place. So yeah, I just want to say thanks for inviting me on. I love to chat. I love doing these sort of things. So that's why I do my podcast. That's why you do your podcast. And we'll always stay in touch. And there's probably more to come content-wise down the line. So that'd be pretty exciting as well to get more stories out there. But I love what you're doing. Storytelling is the key to, I'd say, life, actually. I think we need more of it.
Yep.
So that's crucial alongside the correct and true information of people and places. I think that's key as well. So yeah, get traveling, people, get outside your comfort zone and enjoy the new experiences that maybe you're dreaming about or thinking about or seeing on YouTube or hearing on podcasts. Yeah, go and make it happen.
Yeah, and we've said this before. What very well said, and I've said things to this effect before. You only know what's if you've only stayed inside your own bubble. That's all you know. And just watching a YouTube episode or a television episode is not the same. So even if you have to start small and travel across the state, just get out of where you are and just start to experience other people in other places. And then if you can get outside of the country, it's really incredible, and everyone should experience it at least once.
Yeah, I mean, a great way to think about it is if you go to a new place, different culture, completely off scale, left field place, and you hate it, then you've learned something about yourself. So that's one key lesson. But if you love it, that's a great lesson too. You love the place and the things you experience, right? So you can only learn and see positive out of it. So there's never a bad side to it. Unless something dramatic happens, which is quite rare.
Sure. But then you've got an incredible story to tell.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So awesome. James, thank you so much for this time together again. And I'll put everything in the show notes that I possibly can. And again, I'll be listening. And we will definitely, with your blessing, we'll do this again sometime down the road as you continue to travel. So many things we've missed and so much you're going to add. But I look forward to it.
Cheers, dude. Appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good one.
And there's another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast in the books. Thank you so much for listening today. It was another great guest with some great stories, as always, and I hope that you will support all of the guests by checking out the show notes and going to their web pages, seeing any socials and projects that they may have going on. And please, again, I'll ask as always to like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really does help to allow the podcast to grow and reach more people, and I appreciate you for doing that. Also, if you haven't done so, check out the website, whybpodcast.com, where you can find blog posts, If you'd like to be a guest, please register to be a guest on the site and check out the merch page. There's some really cool stuff if you're interested in representing the pod, along with some other cool travel items and apparel that I'm working on every day as well. Join me again next week for another great guest with more incredible stories. New episodes drop every Sunday just after midnight Eastern Time. Until then, thank you for being here and have a great day.